Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for March 3, 2022, the 1MDB deal edition. We begin with that story from Reuters as Timothy Leisner, prosecution witness in the Roger Ng trial, testified that J. Lo, the fugitive financier and lead corruption person, allegedly, on the 1MDB scandal, said he was able to cut a deal with Trump administration officials to get rid of the civil forfeiture, or rather the investigation into 1MDB. There were not any terms of this deal released, but apparently there were some discussions, according to J. Lo, as Mr. Leisner testified on the witness stand. Obviously, this did not happen, as Roger Ng is in trial and Goldman Sachs paid the largest FCPA fine ever, and Timothy Leisner has pled guilty. But interesting that J. Lo thought, probably due to the corruption of the Trump administration, he could buy his way out of it. Next up from the New York Times, an interesting article that raises a question I've been thinking about for some time is, will Russia move to crypto based upon the crippling U.S. economic sanctions? And this is something that 4 senators want Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to explain how her department will get crypto companies and other digital asset middlemen to enforce economic sanctions in Russia. So this is my concern that they will turn to crypto, and whatever darkness involved in crypto, it will only increase because of the economic sanctions in the banking. Next up, we turn domestically to The Hill, first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, as former Illinois Speaker in the House of Representatives Mike Madigan was indicted Wednesday on federal racketeering charges that he allegedly participated in a host of bribery schemes aimed at using his position for personal gain. He was, of course, in the center of the Consolidated Edison, Commonwealth Edison, ComEd utility scandal a few years back, and now he has been indicted for this. Some more fallout. ComEd, of course, pled out, got a DPA, and has moved forward. And finally, from the Washington Post, the U.S. prepares to expand the financial attacks on Russian oligarchs, aiming to freeze billions held by Putin's allies. Roman Abramovich, for instance, has now put up his soccer club, Chelsea, for sale. Even if the sale is made, I'm sure those proceeds would be frozen in the United Kingdom, but going after the oligarchs can only strengthen the West's hand on the Ukrainian invasion. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.